Welcome to the Echoes podcast. I'm Jessica Smetana. He's Mike Golic Jr. We're back celebrating another Notre Dame victory this week over Boston College, 25-10. Like and subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave some comments. We love our YouTube commenters. We're having a lot of fun doing the pod this year, Mike. I thought maybe I saw our lives flash before our eyes again this weekend when BC was driving late in that game to tie it up. But turns out Notre Dame's defense comes up clutch yet again. So let's start with our thoughts on this very tense and yet 15-point victory over Boston College on Saturday.
Well, Jess, I want to ask you about that because, peek behind the curtain. I call college football games on TNT on the weekend. This weekend, I had an overlap. So I was calling a game that ended right around the time that Notre Dame's was getting started. I was in transit. So I only saw about the third quarter of that game. But the texts that I was getting, the tweets that I was seeing, while this is a game that as I look back on the box score where Notre Dame and C.J. Carr almost passing for 300 yards in this game, no turnovers. You had Jeremiyah Love, who was up over 130 rushing yards, up over 160 total yards, had the great 94-yard touchdown. And the defense had 5 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions. So on paper, it looks great. In actuality, from what the feedback I was getting, it sounded like a nightmare. So you were trying to watch this also in the midst of the great change in college football's viewing experience. You know what?
Let's start. So. No. I'm going to cut you off. Let's start there because, Mike, I am livid. My weekend was completely marred by this Google Disney carriage dispute. I'm one of the 10 million YouTube TV subscribers that relies on YouTube TV every weekend to watch college football and to mainline around 4 games at once into my bloodstream at once. Yeah. And this weekend, all the Disney channels, ESPN, ABC, off of YouTube TV. So I had to scramble. I used my boyfriend's parents' Verizon cable subscription to watch, but I couldn't watch it on my TV or any of my computer devices because you can only watch it on mobile because I'm not inside their network. So I'm watching the Notre Dame game on my tiny iPhone screen, and I was very frustrated watching the first half. Every time Notre Dame missed an extra point, I wanted to spike my phone on the floor. And then, Mike, I did the thing that superstitious, dumb fans do where Notre Dame was only playing well when I was in one certain room in my apartment, which, by the way, I live in New York City. So there's only one room in my apartment to begin with. So I'm in the closet watching on my phone, crying because I was so frustrated that it was just so annoying. And then the real kicker, Mike, is that normally my YouTube TV automatically records the Notre Dame game so I can rewatch them first thing Sunday morning. Little bit of my process here. I rewatch the game. I take notes. I make sure I remember, all the drives. I look at all the statistics and stuff while I'm watching. I couldn't do that because it's not on YouTube TV. And for some reason, ESPN, which I also have a login to, courtesy of you, was not, there's no replay of the Notre Dame Boston College game, even though you could replay every single other college football game from this weekend. You can't replay the Notre Dame Boston College game. I don't know why. I have been refreshing the page for over 24 hours now. So anyways, Mike, this is a new segment called Jess's Complaint Corner. I hope you guys enjoyed it, but I had a very miserable time watching this game and I'm very unhappy about it.
Can I say? Yeah. I'm so proud of you for watching that game from the closet. That is a move straight out of elementary school aged Mike Golic Jr. watching the game from a bathroom because the team scored while I was in there. So incredibly proud. You did your part in your effort here. Speaking of that, we will talk to someone that actually efforted on the field. Kyngstonn Viliamu-Asa going to join us in the second segment of this show. Notre Dame star linebacker.
There, yeah.
Yeah, now, we get to it eventually. Here we had big feelings that we need to work through right now. And Jess, listen, I'm sure you're not alone, right? This was dominating the Twitter sphere. We saw all the ESPN talent have to put out those boilerplate statements about going to YouTube TV and writing to your congressman or whatever the hell went on in the link that I didn't click. So it was a big change for people. And then you get to the game itself. So how you watch it, how you digest it changed drastically. And then you get to the game itself. And this falls into the category of games Notre Dame is supposed to win and win handily if they're going to continue to keep pace in this college football playoff discussion that now this week is actually relevant. We get the first round of the CFP rankings that'll come out Tuesday night. We record this podcast on Monday, so it'll be after that. But Notre Dame figures itself to be in the mix once again, especially with some of the losses above it. And you had a game that felt for a while, especially around halftime, like, oh my God, are we really going to give this away against this year's Boston College team? Even as dominant as they looked in this game, Jess, I guess what it comes down to is a reminder of how, weird turnovers, the fumble from Jadarian Price that in part changed this game in the red zone. And then the Notre Dame kicking game, I think the biggest story of this weekend, bar none, right? 3 different kickers missing kicks in this game. As Marcus Freeman says, we will continue to cycle through until someone consistently puts it through the uprights. I understand injury has been a part of this problem, but Jess, this being one of the things that could be an Achilles heel for a team that looks CFP ready is somewhat maddening right now as we hit November.
Right. I think that I agree with you. Of all of the things that were frustrating about Saturday, Boston College didn't have a lead in the game and Notre Dame was dominating. It's not that Notre Dame's offense is good, but they played bad. It's that Notre Dame's offense is good and they played really well, but they didn't score enough. And then when they did score, they weren't able to kick extra points and they weren't able to make field goals. I think this game feels so different if Jadarian Price doesn't fumble that ball. That was a really good Notre Dame drive and they cough it up in the red zone, which is pretty inexcusable. And he's had a few of those this season too, which is not a good trend to be a part of. But I think that if you do want to talk about like the positives first before we get to the kicking and the, again, lack of scoring, which does feel like it's been concerning now for more than a couple games. I want to start with Jeremiyah Love, who had a 90 plus yard, I think it was 94-yard touchdown in this game in a pivotal moment. It was just sort of like BC is not good enough for them to overcome a multi-score lead, but Notre Dame was not able to score multiple times until that point where it felt like, okay, that's just Notre Dame just needed to punch one in, and they got it. And he made it look so easy, and he became the first player in Notre Dame history to have 2 90+ rushing touchdowns in his career, which is a crazy stat because, of course, we all remember the Indiana touchdown, which again came right after a Notre Dame turnover in a spot where it's like Indiana's marching down the field. They're about to score. Oh, interception. Whoopsies. Next play of the game, Jeremiyah Love touchdown. So just like seeing that happen again was awesome. And watching him chirp the Notre Dame sideline on the way down the field was incredible, Mike.
By far the coolest part of that play, right? In the midst of a 94-yard touchdown run where there was a defender somewhat in range. Malachi Fields ended up coming and being the police escort towards the end zone. But Jeremiyah Love actively chatting with the Notre Dame sideline amidst that run. And for the first time this year, we know obviously well known for the Love celebration that he brings out, but broke out the Heisman. So I think he even understands it's November. This is getting serious. We understand everyone's trying to build up that campaign, and he's got as good a resume as anybody out there. And I feel like throwing up the Heisman in a game, always good. I feel like the Heisman people love that. Get you on the radar, get you into the reel. It's easy fodder for television. ESPN, Fox, everyone's going to show him doing the Heisman. So heady play by him as we start to play the press game going into the final month.
It was a heady play. And Jason Love, Jeremiyah Love's father, tweeted after the game because everyone was wondering, like, why is he chirping the Notre Dame sideline while he's running down the field? He said, quote, "Coach challenged that he couldn't do 90 yards again, and he was trying to locate him while strolled downfield proclaiming, quote, 'I told you so.'" So this sounds like another Christian Gray moment. And I don't know, I assume it was Marcus Freeman, but maybe Jaywan Sider. I'm not sure which coach, but it seems like another moment where the coaches are pushing the players' buttons and telling them, like, okay, go out there and do it then, talk your shit and then do it. And like he did it and then talked to shit after. So anyways, I thought that was an awesome moment, Mike. And in a game where Notre Dame did not run the ball well, Boston College's entire game plan this game was very similar to NC State. They wanted to shut down the run game and make Notre Dame beat them in the air.
USC fans, look away.
I mean, honestly, that was my biggest takeaway. I thought to myself while I was watching this game, this makes USC's defensive game plan feel even more inexplicable because it was raining in that game. And in this game, look, it was gusting up to 35 miles an hour. They said it in the pregame. I don't know if the wind played a factor in any of the near misses early on for CJ Carr, but I mean, there were plays where Boston College, and Brock Osweiler said this repeatedly during the game, Boston College had no safeties back there to help. And so those long touchdown plays where he's hitting Malachi Fields, Will Pauling, there was one like very close one that just missed Fields. There was a long pass to Jordan Faison. I mean, he's just popping it over the top because Boston College has no one back there, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, it was clear from the beginning. Notre Dame went max protection, 7 guys in, tight ends and running backs, and was throwing 2 and 3 man route concepts down the field for that exact reason. And it's great to see, right? Like Mike Denbrock and this offense continued to evolve and take each opponent individually. And they saw that as a clear weakness and went hunted it early and often and had a ton of success. Like, I don't have a lot of complaints about the Notre Dame passing attack from this game. We saw another great catch from Eli Raridan going across the middle. We saw plenty of those deep shots from all these guys. Like everyone got involved. Everyone got to eat. CJ Carr was pretty well protected for the majority of this game. I thought a Notre Dame offensive line that continues to be manned by backups in the middle as Joe Ottings now has another start under his belt at center. You've got him flanked by Gerby Lambert and Sullivan Absher, the 2 guys that were competing for the right guard spot in the spring. Like that group looked pretty good. I thought, at left tackle, Anthony Knapp, one of his better games as a pass protector this season. Like all those guys stepped up to the challenge and did all that. And quite honestly, Jess, you talked about the USC game plan looking back. I also thought in a lot of ways this game for Notre Dame, a good look ahead at what's to come with Navy. Navy's defense, super aggressive, will show you a lot up front and get after you there. Offensively, we could talk about the defense a little bit now. Boston College, it was 4 downs territory for most of the game for them. And that's a great way to get prepped for Navy, where just mentality-wise on defense, I always talk about it, so different. You're used to, hey, I get to 3rd down and get them off the field there, we're good to go. And in this game, like you're going to deal with Blake Horvath and Navy coming up, you got to be ready to defend all 4. And the Notre Dame defense kind of got a head start on that this week and looked really good in the process.
Mike, I always love when the Sickos committee posts the long drive of the week. And this was the long drive of the weekend, this Boston College drive that was 11 minutes long. But they only kicked a field goal on it, which was very important. But the drive also included a 4th and 3, where Notre Dame appeared to have gotten off the field. But then a personal foul penalty was called on Josh Burnham. I don't know if I need to start another complaint corner, by the way, about the officiating in this game. I won't, because we've done it enough this season. But it was an excruciating drive to watch, and it made worse by that penalty.
Yeah, it was brutal. I think officiating in Notre Dame this season have sort of been ever-present conversations, so the complaint corner would welcome that yet again after what we've seen this year. But you're right, it was little moments like that. And I think that's sort of the story for the day, Jess, right? If we zoom out and take the 30,000-foot picture, is nuts and bolts wise, there's not a ton to worry about coming off this game. Like the touchdown for Boston College came because our best defender and the best cornerback in college football got his feet tripped up on a play, and they managed to get one by him. Like if that's the worst thing we see from Leonard Moore this season, I'm pretty comfortable with that. The rest of Tay Johnson had 2 interceptions. One of them was a half-inch of a knee off the ground away from being a pick 6, and the other one missed early in the game and ended up getting one straight when he was on his ass later on. So he's become the playmaker we hope for. Like we talked early in the season, losing the ball hawking of Xavier Watts and what he meant to that defense, seems to have found someone who's pretty comfortable going out and making plays. And Tay, all these guys, Luke Talich had some really nice plays in coverage late in that game when he got out on the field. Like they look comfortable. They're better at harassing the quarterback now. That full this game, and tell me if you agree, Jess, I felt like was the actual blend that we had heard talked about of Chris Ash, where they're able to mix in some of the zone stuff, some of the 4-man rush stuff with what we did so well from last year. This felt like the game. And again, an opponent that wasn't going to stress you a ton on offense provides you that opportunity. I felt like this was the game that blended both of those worlds, and this new idea of Chris Ash's defense and what we had last year with Al together about as well as we've seen.
Yeah, I think that's right. How do you evaluate the times when Notre Dame was in the zone defense? I think there were a couple times where they got beat while they were in man too. So we should point that out. Like there are a couple plays early where Dallas Golden gets a little bit off of his mark, and that's a 1st down. But how do you evaluate the success of the zone defense?
Well, I think one of the areas that showed up that the zone defense showed off was linebacker, especially Drake Bowen. And I know Bulla had talked about how he's a more well-rounded linebacker than he probably gets credit for. We've seen him, obviously man reps have been pretty notable. The Texas A&M one's one to forget, but he was in position and close. We've seen him run with other defenders in man, but in zone, he got his hands on a ball or 2, I believe. Those guys all, I thought acquitted themselves well there. And part of it was also like you had Mark Zachary in for Christian Gray in this game at corner opposite Leonard Moore.
Mhm.
And you clearly saw like they were kind of doing things differently. Leonard Moore, you're going to let him rip in man, and you can do some of the half field stuff where he's in man. And on the other side, you put Mark Zachary maybe in a position he's more comfortable in right now. And it looked like that was a fair amount of zone coverage over on his side. So overall, I thought they acquitted themselves pretty well in whatever coverages they were working in. Again, accounting for the fact that Boston College, not exactly an offense that was going to stress you in a ton of those ways.
Right, and they also held Boston College to 33 rushing yards. Their longest rush was 6 yards, so did not have a single rushing play over 10 yards in this game. Notre Dame's run defense continues to be really,
Oh,
really outstanding this season. Let's if you don't have anything else to say about the defense, I would like to move on to the special teams fiasco, but do you have
sure.
anything else first?
I would just say, I think overall, and again, we're going to talk to KVA here shortly, and we'll talk a little bit about the linebacker room, but I really think, like last year, that group during the course of last season turned into a massive strength for Notre Dame. And after a brief wonder if some of that had been lost early in the season, those guys are awesome. I'm glad they're letting Jalen Sneed rush the quarterback consistently again. I think we all saw how great that looked. KVA might be one of our best pass rushers and what he's done consistently, but that group overall looks comfortable. Shout out to Jason Anye. A lot was written about him, how important Gabe Rubio's been in his comeback. I thought he played a really good game. Jared Dawson outside of the offsides, I thought was also someone really disruptive, really active, holds well at the point of attack. So the defensive tackle group and the linebackers continue to play some really good football. And that run defense has been a pretty consistent through line for Notre Dame all season.
Yeah, Drake Bowen finished with 14 total tackles, which is crazy, and 2 tackles for loss, a sack, one pass defended. So very, very solid stat line for him. I think his career best. I should have written that down. I think I read that in the game notes. Are we fully in crisis mode with the kicking unit, Mike?
Yes. Oh, God, yes. I mean, having 3 different guys miss kicks in the game. Like, I was on campus when we started having tryouts for the Interhall team. Shout out to David Ruffer, who ended up going on to great acclaim at Notre Dame. But it's getting to that point where it's got to be all hands on deck. It's November football. And while you are never at risk of really losing this game, we know what this is about. Notre Dame is getting ready to get in playoff mode, has been in playoff mode since the loss to Texas A&M. That cannot be what undoes this football team. And so, yes, we are in crisis mode.
Yeah, it's not great. I've seen a lot of comments from fans saying to do tryouts for the men's and women's soccer team, but guys, women's soccer team, they're like a legit national championship contender. They did
Yeah,
lose to Pitt in a big upset, which I hope is not foreshadowing. So they're in the middle of their postseason. The men's ACC tournament starts on the 5th, which is this week. So I don't see that happening. I don't know if that's like a jokey suggestion or if we're legitimately trying to find our Brandon Aubrey.
I was going to say, we can't let another Brandon Aubrey make their way to the NFL without leaving every stone unturned. That, you know how hard that is for us to have to
I
explain,
know.
yeah, he's a Notre Dame guy, but he didn't actually kick for the football team. And now I'm sure they're getting ready to load up his 70-yarder so he can break Cam Little's
Yeah.
record from this weekend. Like, we can't have that happen again.
You know what? Of all the kicking things to happen this weekend, that one was the biggest kick in the
Yes.
you know what. Not just the missed extra points, the fact that someone kicked a 68-yarder in an NFL game on Sunday and it wasn't Brandon Aubrey. I mean, that was a hard pill to swallow after Saturday. But yeah, it's just not I I don't understand it because like Noah Burnett coming into this season's experienced. He's supposed to be great. I don't think he missed a lot of extra points at North Carolina last year. But it's not even like Notre Dame's asking them to kick 60 yarders or 55 yarders, which other teams have been successful at doing because college kickers just keep getting better, it seems like everywhere else. These are extra points, Mike. Like you don't have someone who can consistently kick an extra point on this team. And then you're putting your freshman out there. I'm sure his confidence is completely shot now that
That's
he's
the
missed
thing.
one. And the first one, by the way, was just a doink. I mean, it's inexcusable, but maybe you should have kept him out there because at least that one was close.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm going to give we talked about it earlier. Marcus and this team have done a really good job pushing the right buttons with most of their players, understanding how to coach everyone different. And this is going to have to be another one of those cases. Like with Noah, at least there's been injury as a part of the equation this year. Well, I'm willing to say, all right, this guy's been constantly dealing with his body, not necessarily vibing with him. But like you said, you should be 2 and 3 deep with guys that can make an extra point. If it changes, and this is the conversation now for Notre Dame going forward is, hey, you've got some games coming up. Navy, we talked about how scary the Pitt game can be. You're going to have to hunt opportunities in some of these games to try and give these guys chances to do this. Because while I can get frustrated and say, all right, it's 4-down mode from here on out, I think with the field goal range, that certainly changes part of the conversation in a way that, hey, Notre Dame's been an aggressive team on 4th down for the last couple of seasons. But when it comes to the point after attempt and having to be in 2-point mode now, I don't think you want that to be your identity for the full time going forward. And to get the reps you need later on, that delayed gratification Marcus Love's talking about, they're going to have to, he's right, continue to give these guys in-game chances to go and prove they can do this.
I also don't understand why they kicked the third extra point and didn't go for 2 to try to make it 20-10 when it was 18-10 after the Jeremiyah Love touchdown run in the third quarter. That to me was just a confusing decision, especially then because the point extra failed and the 2-point may have failed also because that hasn't been Notre Dame's strong suit this year.
Yeah.
But at least then you're making it a 2-possession game. You're going up by 10 points instead of it stayed at 18-10. And then, of course, Boston College then has a decently long drive after, ends in the interception, which was huge by Don Schuler. But I would have probably liked to see them just go for 2 there.
They're learning some different math this year based on the amount of kicks that were missed there. So I'll give them a passing grade on that. But it is, I think, the number one thing on Notre Dame fans' concern list going forward until further notice is how this shapes up as a part of special teams that have otherwise, as we know, been a strength. Blocking kicks, kick returns for touchdowns, all these
James
areas.
Rendell, again, a great game. That's the thing that is frustrating, Mike, is that we know Marty Biagi. I know him to be a good special teams coordinator. I don't know. I can't defend him in this situation because I don't know what's going on. And this is a pretty huge part of special teams is being able to kick extra points and field goals. But as far as last season, the special teams trick plays, everything was incredible. I mean, even last year, Mitch Jeter going through his own injury situation, then coming back, making the game-winning field goal against Penn State. This similar thing happened last year, but I mean, having it happen again, but not even having a backup option and also not having a team that can convert 3rd and 1 consistently or 4th and 1 consistently. All of those things, it's just is making me very concerned about the situation.
Well, if there's one thing we learned, especially in the special teams regard, they're going to get other opportunities. Tyler Buckner at one point was someone that drew a lot of ire because of his fake on special teams and ended up being a guy that was part of a fake that everyone got to celebrate later on. So they will give these guys chances to come back and try and right these wrongs. But they're going to have to hurry up on that because there's only so much season that we've got left here. Let's take a quick break and talk to someone who has been a part of this season. When we come back, Kyngstonn Viliamu-Asa, Notre Dame star linebacker, going to chop it up with us here next on the Echoes.
Breakfast might be the most important choice you make all day. That's because with Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast, you can mix and match your very own perfect pairing of our delicious morning favorites.
With this breakfast deal, the choice is all yours, not someone else's. And isn't that how it should be? It's your breakfast after all, not Martha's. She can pick her own breakfast. This one's all you.
No matter what you choose, from our sausage biscuit with that grilled breakfast sausage or the egg and cheese biscuit with fresh cracked grade A egg and melty American cheese on a fluffy buttermilk biscuit, a small size of perfectly seasoned potatoes, or a medium hot coffee to power through the morning.
All you got to do is pick your ideal morning pair. You really can't lose because you're the one calling the shots. The choice is all yours. Wake up to Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast, just the way you want it.
Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. price and participation may vary. No substitutions. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
Support for the Echoes comes from Google. Now, every August, we talk about the new rule changes that are coming to college football. But now that we're in the middle of the season, it's kind of hard to follow the real impact that those rules are having on games. We remember all the noise and commotion made about the injury timeout rule that was going into effect early this season.
With AI mode and Google search, you can just type in, how have this year's college football rule changes impacted the season so far? And AI mode will pull together key details and give you a summarized AI-powered response. It's perfect for those big, nuanced questions that don't have one simple answer.
And it doesn't end there. Let's say you want to keep going deeper. With AI mode, you don't have to start a whole new search. You can ask direct follow-ups to learn more about specifics or just explore related ideas. So whether you're wondering about a complex scheme, a new rule, or the intricacies of the transfer portal, with AI mode, you can just ask Google. All right, we're going to spend some time talking about the game. We might as well check in with one of the guys that helped go out and seal the deal after Notre Dame's 25-10 win over Boston College. Notre Dame star linebacker Kyngstonn Viliamu-Asa, kind enough to join us now here. Kyngstonn, good to see you, man. How you feeling?
Good to see you guys, too. I'm doing great.
Awesome, man. Well, it's been an incredible run for you guys. Another win on this streak this last weekend on the road at Boston College, where the defense really showed out. Sacking the quarterback, tackles for loss, multiple takeaways. What did you feel like was working especially well for you guys this Saturday?
Yeah, I think our guys came out prepared, ready to play with violence, ready to play with a lot of effort. And I think we did a good job of preparing during the week to be prepared for what we're going to get in the game.
I heard you say after the game that you take every yard personally as a defender, and this game featured, I think, 12 tackles for loss, Mike, including 5 sacks. So is that the key to making sure you're able to tackle the opponent behind the line of scrimmage, is just taking it extremely personally when you don't?
Yeah, absolutely. When you get in those, especially in the critical situations of 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, it's our will against their will. But then it also comes back to being prepared and in the way that we practice and knowing what we're going to get, and then also playing with great fundamentals, playing with great hands, getting off blocks, and then just finishing the play.
Well, that's what I think of when I think of you, is the heaviest hands I've seen on this defense, destroying blocks. But you do it in a variety of positions, right? You play all over. You got pass rush responsibilities in this team. So how has your role evolved from the way that Chris Ash, Marcus Freeman sort of originally explained it, or was this always in the cards for you, being a guy that did a little bit of everything for this defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a great plan for what everybody's role is, and I think my versatility is allowed to be put on display, and I'm willing to do whatever the team needs me to do, in whatever position they need me to play. So Coach Ash puts me in a lot of different spots, in certain situations, and it's great.
So wait, I then have to ask, better feeling, because we've seen you do both, getting after and sacking the quarterback, or blowing up a lineman or a blocker at the point of attack? Because I've seen you do plenty of both.
You said which one's better?
Yeah, which one do you like? Which one do you like better, getting to sack the quarterback or blowing somebody up at the point of attack?
Man, I think getting a sack that's one of a kind. There's not a lot of opportunities you get, so every time you get it, it's real special. I think I'll take the sacks right there.
This is another game where the defense as a unit was really stout in the second half, especially. What is it about the second halves of games that you feel like the defense is really able to fire on all cylinders and hold the offense to either a touchdown or no touchdowns or a field goal or whatever it's been these last few games?
Yeah, I think we do a great job. I think the players and the coaches do a great job of coming in at halftime, making the adjustments that we need to, being able to communicate on what we saw from the first half and what we expect to get in the second half, and then just coming out second half and doing what we got to do. The players do a great job of reminding each other, like, regardless of what the score is, no matter the situation or any of the external circumstances is, we got to come out and play. We got to come out and play hungry and finish the game.
Like Jess said, that certainly showed up in these last bunch of games. And I don't know, from the outside, it's looked like really since the Purdue game, you guys have raised the level even more so. The defense looks so similar to how it looked last year during that great run you were a part of. Was there a conversation after that? I saw Marcus and remember him frustrated at the podium after Purdue. Was there anything specific that you look back on now that was kind of the difference in who you guys were in the first few games and who you are now?
Yeah. I think everybody knew what we had to do, especially after the first couple games. I think we all kind of settled down as a defense, and players knew what we had to do, and we just focused on getting better each week. We were intentional about what we did in practice, and I think that shows up in the game. And now we just focus on reaching our full potential and stacking and getting better each week.
So take us back before the bye week. The USC game, USC comes in with a really highly rated offense. You're, of course, from Southern California. What is playing in that rivalry like for you?
Yeah, it's great. You grow up watching those type of games. I remember being a recruit, attending those type of games, and I was at one of the USC games at Notre Dame as a recruit. But it was just special, having my family watch back home and having some family come out to the game it's really special. And really anytime I get to go out in front of those fans and with my brothers, man, it means a lot to me.
Did you know a lot of guys on the other side of that game too? I mean, were there guys that, through high school recruiting that you're kind of familiar with?
On the USC team?
Yeah.
Yeah, either guys that I was recruited with or guys I grew up with, went to high school with, or, played youth football with, man. Yeah, I know a lot of guys over there.
Are you going to be disappointed if that game's not on the schedule next year?
Yeah, I hope it is. That's all I want to say. I hope it is.
There you go. Well, hey, the next game up on the schedule for you guys is always an interesting one for a lot of reasons in Notre Dame season. The Navy game, there's so much history there. Obviously, a ton of respect for what those guys are going to go and do after their football career is done. But as someone that's, been through this now and been around it, how would you describe, especially on defense, the unique challenge that Navy poses offensively for you guys?
Yeah, I think you put it exactly right. It's a very unique challenge coming into this game. And it was new for me, too, coming from the West Coast. I had never seen a triple option offense before. So it was something I had to adjust to. And, we're ready for it. Just have to have great keys, great eyes, and play with violence again. So I'm excited for it.
Was there any takeaway that you remember from last year's Navy game? Navy came into the game, ranked undefeated, and Notre Dame, it was considered at the time, it was, a really tough matchup. Notre Dame obviously took care of business. 51-14 was the final score. But what do you remember from that being your first Navy game? And what can you teach some of the other players on the defense that haven't played in one of these games before?
Yeah, I remember thinking, man, it's hella fast. I think it's hard to exactly replicate what they do at the speed that they do it in practice, because they do a really great job. But yeah, if I had any advice, man, just watch film, have great feet, great eyes, and communicate, man, and just get to the ball somehow.
Well, and, for Chris Ash, now he takes over this year and is going to be at the helm for this one. And obviously, again, the way you guys have come together a defense, I think a lot of people that may have been critical before really appreciate what Chris Ash has done. How would you describe him personality-wise? We just see him on the sideline. He always looks like his facial expressions like he's in pain on the sideline here. So obviously he's not like that all the time. What's he been like for you guys as you've gotten to know him over the last year?
Yeah, Coach Ash is great. I think with us, he definitely has a little bit more personality. But, I would say he's a great leader. He's a great leader. He brings a lot of intensity to the room, and he's a great guy. He's a less. He just shows a lot more personality in the building. He makes jokes sometimes. Sometimes they're funny. Sometimes they're not. But yeah, no, he's a great guy. He's a great coach, and I'm sorry that he's leading his defense.
You showed some personality when you did the sexy Dexy dance a couple weeks ago. Why did you choose that celebration against NC State, I believe it was?
Oh, man, I don't know. It was like a spur of the moment thing. It just popped in my head. But that week of practice, I remember seeing it on TikTok or something. And then in practice, I did it. And then when that happened in the game, I didn't know what to do. And that was my first instinct.
Hey, your instincts have generally been right this year, so I think that's another case where it worked out pretty well for you here. You're part of a Notre Dame linebacker group that has showed itself to be, I think, one of the best in college football, and so much depth there. How would you describe the personalities in that room, whether it's, Drake, who's one of the captains on the team, or, Jalen, who's one of the veterans and has been around for a while here? Is there a clear leader of the room? Is there a class clown? What are you guys working with in there?
Oh, man. Yeah, I love the linebacker room. It's a lot of great dudes, man, on and off the field. But I'll say it starts with Max, Coach Buller, who leads us and sets the tempo, sets the tone, really knows us. But is a great leader. But then, Drake's a great guy. Jalen's a great guy. Jaden, a lot of great dudes. I think we all get along very well. We all crack jokes, hang out with each other, even off the field. But then when it's time to go, it's time to go. And I think we have a lot of young guys in that room as well. We're going to be really great players.
What do you think about night games at Notre Dame Stadium? This Navy game, third night game of the season now. Notre Dame's played in a couple of these already. What sets the night games apart from the 3:30 kickoffs for you as a player?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of anticipation, not only for us, but for the coaches and for the fans too. But I think it's a different feeling, walking under the lights, playing under the lights, seeing all the fans, seeing the sold-out stadium. I think we're all excited. I think anytime we get to play in Notre Dame Stadium is special, but under the lights it is really special, and I'm excited to play this weekend.
Have you started to figure out your night game routine? Like I always tell, like my senior year, we played 7 night games that year and we had it down. We had the same meal that we'd had before, had a nice 3-hour nap window there, had the same guys that I would go down and have. Like, do you have your formula all picked out?
For sure. I think that's one thing about night games is, we get to go back to the hotel and have some time to rest before we go out to the stadium. So I get to get a nap in before. So that's really great.
Do you have a nap routine? Are you on TikTok? That's my nap routine. I will pass out after 3 TikTok videos.
Oh, really? Nah, I just after I walk through in the morning, we come back to the hotel and I just go straight to sleep.
That's impressive. We were having, milk and cookies back in the day. Then I'm sure you guys are eating a lot better in the lead up to the game than we are right now here, which is a sigh of relief for everybody.
No one could eat worse than your team did, Mike. So that's probably a good thing.
That is 100% sure. Kyngstonn, I'm curious. You mentioned you're a guy that comes from the West Coast. You're out here at Notre Dame's campus. Talked about how great it is being under the lights. What are some of your other favorite spots around campus as you've gotten to know, this school, all the history around there? Do you have a few places around campus that you've really enjoyed?
Yeah, I think by the lake. I have a class in the building that's right next to the lake, so I walk by it a lot. I think that's a place where I've gained a lot of appreciation for it. It's just sit by the lake, next to the grotto. And I think just walking around campus, going to class, appreciating the architecture and all the buildings, and then all the trees, especially around this time. See all the fall colors. It's pretty great.
Oh yeah, how'd you do with winter? Just coming out here, my buddies from Southern California, we had to teach them how to drive in the snow. It was their first snow a lot of them had ever seen. So was that like it for you?
Yeah. My first winter was pretty rough. I enrolled early, so I got here first week of January, my freshman year, and coming from California, I didn't have no winter clothes, so I hopped off the plane with shorts and a T-shirt, and then some of my other teammates who came with me were looking at me crazy. I think I had slides on too. I've gotten better. My wardrobe has elevated, and I'm very much prepared for this next winter.
That's great to hear. There's no such thing as being cold. It's just being unprepared. As a Midwesterner, that's my opinion. We'll get you out of here in a minute, Kyngstonn, but I do want to ask, what is it like having a mom who is Twitter famous on Notre Dame social media?
Oh man. Shout out to my mom, man. She's great, and I wouldn't be who I am without her. But yeah, she's is she Twitter famous?
To us, she is, for sure.
Yeah. In Notre Dame Twitter, she's kind of like the voice of Notre Dame for a lot of people and the pulse of the team. So as someone whose mom was also very online during my tenure, I had a deep appreciation for your mom out there. She's awesome. Oh,
man, it's great. Yeah, I appreciate my mom, man. Shout out my mom.
There we go. Shout out, Mom. We'll make sure we tag her in this. Listen, when this pod comes out, the first round of college football playoff rankings will always be out. you guys are online. You guys see all of this. How hard is it to sort of block out the noise? And what does Marcus tell you guys about, kind of being aware of that stuff or not at all?
Yeah, that's something he preaches to us every week, just block out the noise. And that's something that we've embraced as a team and something that we all understand. You know what I mean? We trying to just get better and reach our full potential each week. So we can't let any external factors affect the way that we play, and the way that we prepare to be our best each week.
Well, it's worked for you guys so far, so don't change whatever you're doing. We're all really enjoying it from the cheap seats, and I'm sure it's a great time inside that building. Kyngstonn, congrats on all the success, man. You have been an absolute joy to watch this year. You're out there kicking ass, and I'm sure November and December are going to bring more of that. So best of luck, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon, man.
Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Echoes. Shout out to Kyngstonn. He is so fun to watch, Mike, and I do want to go back to my complaint corner for a second, because as I was screaming about the Google Disney issue, my microphone pretty much exploded. So if my audio has been terrible in this podcast, I sincerely apologize. I'm having a really frustrating weekend with technology. I feel like your dad, Mike. It's not good. It's not a good feeling.
You did do a podcast with Dad for some time, so it sounds like some of that rubbed off on you, or they're trying to silence you, and the big tech giants in the part of this conversation killed your microphone. So that's the story I'm going with.
You may be onto something. Yeah. Anyways, okay. Let's look ahead to this weekend. We talked a little bit about it with Kyngstonn, the Navy game. I said last week, this is one of these games that's a little spooky to me. Night game at Notre Dame, Navy 7-1, currently in first place in the American. Blake Horvath, who started for Navy last year, still playing, still the quarterback. Notre Dame fans will remember him from that game at MetLife Stadium. There were 5 fumbles in that game and an interception, Mike. That was sort of the story of the game last year. But what stands out to you about this Navy team playing on the road at Notre Dame Stadium this weekend?
Well, I think first and foremost, like when it's not even when it is like MetLife being a special game last year, when it's Navy in South Bend, it's a very different week overall. Like and Notre Dame, thankfully, because you play the academies most every year, you've got experience. There's part of your off season that's usually built into this part of training camp where the defense especially will spend some time with an offense that's decidedly different. And we know modern college football rules have changed some of what the academies are able to do with the cut blocking and the way that they've run their option. And so they've had to adjust. But like traditionally, this is a week where you go into it having to kind of throw everything else football wise out that you normally do. As a guy that was a scout team O-lineman trying to get the defense prep for it, you're learning a completely different language as a player and way to do things. So it takes you out of your element a little bit for a week in a way that's jarring. And you're also bracing for, let's just try and get everyone out healthy. That's the other part of facing this team, is you're always worried because the play style is so different, because the cut blocking's in there. Defensively, you're just hoping you walk out of there with all your starters fully intact. And I guess the other weird part of it, Jess, too, is it's the only game where the opposing team gets cheered as loudly as you do. Like there is that mutual respect factor. And, it's one of the cool parts and cool traditions, like going over win or lose. And, unfortunately, in my time, we did more losing to Navy than Notre Dame had been used to the past 40 years. But, you go over and you both swap alma maters and go stand behind them when they do theirs. They stand behind us when we do ours. And I don't know. I always tell guys it's just different. Like there's in Kyngstonn kind of, you could see him kind of going there too. There's nothing that prepares you for seeing the heights and weights listed for the guys playing at the academies, and then the feeling of the first time they put both their helmet screws directly in your chest and then pop immediately back up. Like these guys are built different. The effort and enthusiasm is insane. And so you've got to bring it in a way that this group, because they've got so much veteran experience, I think will be ready for. But, for the guys that are new to it, for the interior of this offensive line and the other side for Notre Dame, like you bring your lunch pail. Like, trust me, you may not see bodies as big as the places you've seen elsewhere, but I promise you they're going to bring it and thunder punch your ass.
Yeah, this Navy team's not ranked right now, but they lost their first game of the season to North Texas on Saturday, who's a very good team also. But
another turnover-filled game, by the way, too, for them. I think a fumble lost and 2 interceptions in that game.
Yeah, and Horvath was held to under 80 passing yards, did have over 100 rushing yards. So always an interesting one when Navy comes to town. But again, like I said with Boston College, this is a team that Notre Dame And same with last year too. Like, yeah, I think we're all going to talk about Navy's offense, but I think Notre Dame's offense should be able to score against Navy. Like they need to be able to finish drives specifically. But this should be another game where they have to figure out, run game stuff. But I think CJ Carr in the passing game, the mismatch with the wide receivers there is going to be, I think, huge for Notre Dame, and they need to take advantage of that.
Big time. You've got to hit big plays against the triple to put them behind and force them out of what they want to do, because it's going to be uncomfortable and you're going to feel like the urge to press if Navy gets a couple of those long drives built in. That third quarter drive against BC, again, kind of prescriptive in that you get antsy. And for CJ Carr, honestly, big test for him, right? We talk about a young guy in a season of firsts. Getting on the sideline, being cold for that long as consistently is going to happen in this game. And then the opportunities they're used to in the big passing game. If you miss a couple of those, all of a sudden you get tight. The tendency to press some of the stuff that maybe reared its head against USC, that's what you have to guard against. But they are built for this. Like having the passing attack Notre Dame has is the exact weapon you want against a triple option team who's trying to buy up time of possession.
Absolutely. So that being said, Mike, before we get to Saturday, as Notre Dame fans and college football fans, there is going to be a college football playoff ranking out tonight if you're listening to this Tuesday, or maybe it is already out. Very interesting past weekend. If you're a Notre Dame fan, Miami lost to SMU. Where do you expect to see Notre Dame in the rankings, and what are we to make of this Miami team that Notre Dame lost to in week 1, but now is ranked behind Notre Dame in the AP poll?
I think, in the AP poll, I think they're like 18th is Miami, right?
Yeah.
I think it'll be closer than that. Like, I still would expect that Notre Dame's going to be ranked ahead of Miami. As unsavory it is to some people, the committee who is going to be dealing with different metrics for strength of schedule this year and all that stuff that got talked about in the offseason, when you lose matters. And I know people hate the quality loss thing, but for Notre Dame, Texas A&M being third in the country matters. The games being early in the season when you can point to now with a human committee, hey, look at how different this Notre Dame team has played since those two games. Look at the way the defense has responded against good offenses that have played and put up points against other teams. Look at how CJ Carr, a freshman quarterback, I feel like the committee was in part designed to kind of account for injury and growth at quarterback especially. So you've got a lot that you can sell there versus a Miami team that stubbed their toe on games they shouldn't lose. So I have no issue and will have no issue. Head-to-head is one of the metrics considered, but it is just that, one of them. It's not the whole story, and especially with now a couple months in between that game, I think it counts for something, and that will be closer, but Notre Dame can and should still be ahead of them.
Yeah, it's the interesting conundrum of like the good loss, bad loss thing, because Notre Dame still has 2 good losses to A&M and Miami, but Miami has now 1 okay loss and 1 bad loss because SMU lost a bunch of games already this season. So, but Notre Dame's losses to Miami, who lost to SMU. So I go figure. But yeah, so you're right. This is why the human committee was invented, and there's still a lot of football left to be played. I think comparing 10-2 Miami to 10-2 Notre Dame is still very premature in early November. Like there's a lot of, both teams have to play Pitt. We've already talked about the Pitt super weapon. Miami's got NC State, who just upset Georgia Tech this past week. And the ACC is an absolutely unpredictable conference, and I do not understand what's going on in it, but it's great if you love chaos. And yeah, Notre Dame still has to win out. They have to beat Navy. They have to beat Syracuse, they have to beat BC and Stanford. So, or not BC, Pitt and Stanford. So yeah, there is still too much football to be played for me to worry about the 10-2 versus 10-2 conversation. But Miami likely is going to miss the ACC championship game. I think that there's too many teams ahead of them. Like mathematically, it would be very difficult for them to get back in it. But Notre Dame, hypothetically, if they do go 10-2, you're comparing teams that Notre Dame has just won 10 games in a row to a team in Miami that not only has lost 2 of their last 3 and maybe will lose more this season, but this has become sort of a recipe for Mario Cristobal, is that they start out really strong and then come November have just been losing so many games, Mike. It happened last year with Cam Ward and the number 1 offense in college football. So I think Notre Dame's going to be ahead of Miami, and I think it's going to piss a lot of people off. But that is how the 12-team playoff committee is currently working. So
I will say, if Miami was somehow ranked against Notre Dame in this poll, I wouldn't care. it'd be fine. Like, I could understand the thought behind it. And like you said, there's a month of football with some common opponents and people that are not guaranteed wins for either side. So play it out in the field and make it happen. If you're Notre Dame, the point is you're in range. You are in the conversation, and that's all you need to keep right now, because as we saw this weekend, and I'm sure we'll see in each subsequent weekend, people are going to keep messing up. And as long as you keep putting the ball back in play on the other side and survive and advance, I know it's cliche, but shit if it ain't true at this point.
We got a couple questions on the old Twitter machine this weekend, so we'll do a couple of those right now. This is from someone named Kidney, so interesting. I'm curious. With Miami losing again in a close win versus a 1-win BC, does this hurt Notre Dame getting into the playoffs? I don't think the BC game hurts Notre Dame. I playing it close is not what you want to do. But I think when it comes down, if it comes down to common opponents between teams, I think like the NC State common opponent is going to be way more relevant. If it comes down to an ACC team, I think that like this game in particular, you want to have style points, but I don't think this is going to hurt them too much in the grand scheme.
Nope, I would agree. And especially if a lot of the committee folks are just box score watching, there's still a lot of really impressive stuff to point to for Notre Dame. So
anyone who's box score watching, which is probably a lot of people this past weekend, because I don't think this was one of the marquee matchups of the college football weekend, probably thinking, okay, well, Notre Dame outgained Boston College by hundreds of yards. They just probably, fumbled in the red zone, which is true. I don't think that this game impacts them too much. We did get a question about where would you put Jeremiyah Love in the Heisman race from Stephen Goodson. Mike, where would you put Jeremiyah Love in the Heisman race? Because his yards per carry right now is like hovering around 7 yards, I want to say. And like, I know he's not a quarterback, and that's ultimately what's going to hurt him the most. But if you are just comparing him to other running backs, I mean, he has to have the highest odds right now to be in the race. And with 4 games left to go against teams where I think he's going to keep racking up more yards and touchdowns.
This is where I get to be a big douche and say that I am fortunate to be a Heisman voter. So this is a process I'll be going through. Like, Jeremiyah Love at this point looks like a guy that should be invited to New York. Like, again, where you want to put him in a race where, hey, Ty Simpson and what he's done, Fernando Mendoza, I understand why those guys are going to get top billing and deservedly so. Diego Pavia, Haynes King, guys that have been, scrappy guys putting it on the line for their team. Jeremiyah Love is the best running back in college football. He has done that and accomplished all this in a backfield where he's got as guy that's in the same tier as him in terms of being, I think, Mel Kiper's 3rd ranked back in the NFL draft looking ahead. And so to accomplish all this, splitting carries in the backfield and do what he's done with those carries, yeah, I absolutely think he should be invited to New York when it's all said and done, and then we'll see from there.
Last question from Lou. Was worried about Zachary coming in for Gray. That's Mark Zachary coming in for Christian Gray, who Marcus Freeman said was a little banged up and didn't go on Saturday. But he balled out. Can we show the young freshman some love? Mike, can we show the young freshman some love?
We talked a little bit about him before, and I think all these guys took lumps early on, between Dallas, Mark Zachary, some of the other guys that came in, Tay Johnson early on, and you're seeing now all that pay off. I think one of the underrated parts of the Freeman era in South Bend so far is their ability to find reps and roles for young players early so that if and when they need to take over late because of injury like we saw last year, they're not blown away by the moment. And I think being able to get freshmen ready to play, talented ones like Notre Dame's recruiting right now, is a huge area of improvement for Notre Dame under Marcus Freeman. And he's a big part. He's the latest example of this.
Last thing before we go, Mike, this week, Notre Dame basketball is back. We have had so much football to talk about over the last few months. We have not paid enough attention to the basketball teams. The men's team opens up tonight, or last night, if you're listening to this Tuesday, against LIU, but they also play on the 7th against Detroit Mercy. Neither of those games are nationally televised. They're on ACC Extra. And the women's team opens up against Fairleigh Dickinson. So neither team has a nationally televised game until next week. So maybe, God willing, we will find some time on next week's episode, talk a little men's and women's hoops before the men play Ohio State on the 16th and the women play Michigan on the 15th. We got a couple Big Ten matchups coming up for the basketball teams. I'm excited, but I'm scared.
But for this week, we will say good luck in the ACC Extra opener games. I will be watching them. I always watch the ACC Extra games, at least for the women's team. So maybe I'll live tweet the Fairleigh Dickinson Notre Dame game.
There we go. Maybe we'll have Jess do that from the Echoes account as we get going in sicko mode for college basketball season. Hopefully, the ESPN and YouTube TV fiasco is over and resolved by then, so Jess's life can become easier. And if not, we will open up Jess's complaint corner to complaints from you at the Echoes ND Pod if you would like to file those for next week's episode. In the meantime, everyone enjoy those games. Everyone enjoy Notre Dame Navy. Thanks so much. Go Irish.